There we go. There should be sound now. Oh, my goodness. Anyhow, what I was trying to say was thanks for everybody joining me today on my live stream. I start every stream with some technical difficulty, usually microphone. About the other half the time, it's no video. But I do my best here. um, excuse me. Hopefully you guys can hear me now. But thanks for joining me today. There's so many people here already. I really appreciate that. But I'm here, 2-3 times a week to kind of just catch up what's going on, answer any questions I can about Olympus cameras, workspace, or photography in general. And, and I learn a lot too, because a lot of times you guys chit chat amongst yourself and answer questions, in a little more detail sometimes, even though you just have to type it in. But let's see. Buster Keaton. Gosh, I haven't heard that name in a long time. I haven't even, God, I don't even know who that is anymore. It's been so long. I probably knew when I was a kid. Who is Buster Keaton? But let's see who's here. We got lots of people here. Let's see. Plato, David Crooks. Good to see you. God, I hope it doesn't rain Saturday morning so we can still go to the photo walk thing. Oh, Nikon Mike is here. Awesome. Jonas, John Follows, Von Swartchild, John Leach, Lauren. Always good to see you. Rory Lennon. Wow. That's a name I haven't seen before, I don't think. And John Yutze. Tirapan. Awesome. Arthur, good to see you. I like the split toning you did on that Instagram post. That's something new you're doing? Because I hadn't noticed that before. That you were doing split tones. I don't know. I don't keep up with Instagram as much as I can, but that normally your black and whites are very punchy, it's kind of, I tried to emulate that in my own editing, but I really like that. I mean, I think I've seen toning from you before, but that was different somehow. Yeah, I'm happy about something. That's funny. Anyhow, let me get down here to the bottom past all the no sound comments. Silent movies. You've been doing it for a while now. Okay, yeah, I guess maybe since I started doing split toning, I notice it more because it is very subtle. I mean, I always thought your images were great, Arthur. If you guys haven't seen Arthur McPhee's Instagram feed, you should check it out. He's an awesome photographer. But maybe because I've been doing it more lately, I've noticed it in yours now. You know how it is, right? Like, you have to train your own eyes sometimes to see things. And really appreciate what people are doing to make a great image. And yeah, that's something I didn't notice before. I'm sorry, 1 second. Oh, David's texting me. No audio. Thanks. But David Crooks runs a local photography club here that I just recently been participating in. So that's been a lot of fun, and I look forward to every week going out. And I changed my sleep schedule. So today I got up at like 5 in the morning, and hopefully if it doesn't get rained out, we can go. Yeah, that's right, Arthur. It's very subtle, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, you start to notice, really appreciate other people's photography the more you know about it yourself. Like, sorry, there's a question here. Let me get. Is there any way of using the EM5 Mark III for YouTube streaming? Yeah, absolutely. You just get this thing. This is down to like $16 or $17 now on Amazon. I'll give you a link to it, and then you need an HDMI cable. I mean, they have, Olympus has that streaming software in beta that you can download and just use the USB cable that came with the camera. I think it's USB, micro USB on the M5 Mark III. But Let me see. Where's the one that I ordered? Doesn't matter, they're all the same. But it's this thing here. And then you need a micro HDMI cable to go with it. But here's the link for that. And let's see. Issue with streaming software from Ollie confused me. OMD5 is not compatible. Oh, duh. That's right. The M5 Mark III doesn't have tethering ability, so you can't use the beta software. So you have to use this thing. This is the cheapest way. There are higher quality cards out there because the color is slightly off when I use this. I adjust my white balance so you don't really notice. But this works great, and it's so cheap. I mean, the cable will cost you almost as much as the device. Sometimes you can buy these. You can't. I was gonna say you could buy these together with the USB cable, but usually it's not the right one that fits our cameras. You need a micro HDMI because they have mini HDMIs, they have regular full size, and then they have micro. So you need the micro. Does any other Olympus camera have Pro Capture? Just four that I know of. EM5 Mark III, EM1 Mark II, EM1 Mark III, and EM1X. Those are the only four I know of. Yeah, but it works great, and then you use it with OBS software, and then from there you can watch my tutorial on streaming. There's some Olympus cameras though that don't have HDMI out live view. When you plug the HDMI cable in, it just plays back the photos on the card, or you can see the menu, but it doesn't actually output HDMI live view. And those will not stream. Like the Pen PL8 does not, I know that. But the OMDs do, the OM10 Mark II and up seem to be fine. I don't know about the Mark 1s. I think the Mark 1s, they only output 30p HDMI, and this capture card, I don't know, maybe I don't know how to configure it, but I can't get it to work at 30p, so I have to work at 60p. Yes, John McCormick is talking about the news. Olympus got first, second place. They had four out of the top 10 selling cameras in Japan is Olympus, and 5 out of the top 10 are Micro Four Thirds. And I think, I was thinking about this today, that once there's a big shift in sensor tech, right? Meaning we get off this CMOS thing, because CMOS has been around like 10 years now, mainstream. And before that, it was the CCD sensors, right? We need to shift. So we went from CCD to CMOS in our consumer camera. CCD is still a big deal, but not for consumer. And then we need to go to something else, like the global shutter sensors or some other tech that's gonna give us a big leap in quality, low light capability, ISO, and all of that. I mean, a leap like 10 times better, 20 times, with unbelievable shutter speeds, like 1/8,000th of a second, or 1/80th, 1/100,000th of a second. I feel like we're around the corner from some kind of tech like that at the consumer level. And then when that happens, people are going to be switching back to smaller cameras like Olympus and Micro Four Thirds, because you won't need a full-size sensor to get low ISO performance, right? Or I'm sorry, high ISO performance. You can just get it in your smartphone even, right? High ISO performance. But there's still going to be a need for larger sensors and interchangeable lenses, for more enthusiast and professional work. You're not going to get away with a cell phone. That said, there'll still be a place for larger sensor cameras because of the depth of field, but that's the only trick it'll have up its sleeve at that point, is the depth of field, right? And but everything else, people are going to be going to smaller, lighter cameras again, because you know that there's this problem with full frame cameras is the lenses are huge, and that's never going to change, uh, regardless of the sensor. It's just the optics or physics of the optics, right? You need a large image circle or a larger sensor. You need a larger lens, and I don't see that changing in the near future. There may be something, right, where they have these. I mean, I haven't been researching lens technology quite as much as I look at sensor tech, but there is some new lens technology. It's some kind of liquid, or I can't. Well, I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to talk about that because I can't remember. But yeah, lens tech eventually will also have a nice leap, right? To capture light and stuff. But anyhow, um, let's see. Matt Granger sold all his. Yeah, I did see a few minutes of his video where he sold all his Nikon gear, and I just skipped to the part to the one that he's gonna keep. He might keep his 200 millimeter f2. I don't know. Is he going Sony mirrorless or is he going Nikon mirrorless? I don't even know. I didn't watch the whole thing. I used to watch a lot of Matt Granger when he was that Nikon guy because I was really into Nikon for a while, and I learned a lot from his channel. But lately his genre of photographies. He shoots beautiful women, right? So it's not really my area, and I'll never get any work doing that. So I try to spend my time watching, things that I do take pictures of. Laser autofocus. Wow, I haven't heard of that one. I'd be wary of that. You could blind somebody, right? And then Von Swarchow says, I have made the experience that the image quality decreases at an extremely large aperture. You think it makes sense to use aperture 16 and beyond? It does if you want to go for a certain effect. I mean, yeah, you do get a little bit soft when you start to go beyond, actually on a micro four thirds. After you go beyond f8, technically there's diffraction and the image can get soft. But those high apertures, meaning I think technically it's extremely small aperture, but very high aperture numbers because it's an inverse relationship, right? But the high aperture numbers like f16, f22 can give you that starburst effect with the sun and speculars in your image. So as an artistic technique, I think it has some use, which I do time to time. I try to get starburst, so I stop down to f22 on occasion just for that, because that's where the image the image quality doesn't have to be tack sharp because we're going for more of an artistic photo. Canon launched a low light 1/1.8 sensor for video and extreme low light made for industrial use for now. Oh, okay. Yeah, I knew there was something. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be more consumer orientated applications coming once they can get the cost within reason, right? Because it might be like a $20,000 sensor right now. And Elaine, it's always good to see you. I'm glad you're here. You've been missing from the streams for quite a while. And then Christopher Mahon says, or Mahone says, don't know what happened with Red 35, but image only clean HDMI seems to be there in the M10 Mark IV manual on page 28. I looked at the manual. I'm going to have to just grab one for myself. It doesn't say specifically clean HDMI out. It says to adjust the display. Because I was in one of his streams and people were asking that, and he never answered that directly. Where's my... Whoops. Oh, I don't have my EM10 guide on this. This is my new laptop. So normally I have all my my user manuals right in this folder under manuals, but I didn't. Dang it. EM10 IV manual. Well, that's the Mark 1. I'm just going to look right at page 28 real quick. Oh, $6.99. That's got to come down. Free bag. All right. Very good. Support. And manual. English. I assume you mean the English manual. And we'll go down to page 28. What does it say here? The information on the display screens can be switched in either direction by pressing the info button. Image only. Yeah, this is for your live view. But I don't think that really works through the HDMI out. So yeah, I don't think that works through the HDMI out. But anybody have an EM10 Mark IV and just press and hold the info button and see? I mean, once they go in the stores, I'll be able to see for myself. But I think that's what you were referring to, Christopher, and I'm not sure. I mean, where's my EM10? Hold on. Got a chance to get my my tea also. And I'm going to demonstrate this little HDMI adapter. So I'm going to plug this in. Oh, it's already plugged in. I bought a couple of these. I had one plugged in already. This will come in handy if anybody asks me a question. I can just show the menu directly. So this is the micro HDMI cable, right? That's what you need to go into the camera. And then plug that in. Now this is the Mark II, right? But let me see if I can switch to... I don't want all of that garbage. Let me see. Video capture. USB. Oh. Hold on. It would help if I had a battery in here. Wait, there is. Why isn't there? Let me try this again. USB. Technical difficulties. This should be working. In movie mode. Oh, I gotta... I forgot to unlock the lens. This is a kit lens. All right, now let's try. There. So hopefully everybody can see that now. So if I click the info button. Oh, that's clean, isn't it? Oh, but you know what? Look right in the middle though. You can see the little square. There's got to be a way to get rid of that too. And let me see, display, maybe it's in the AF. Focus, no. AF area pointer's off. So let me see. Yeah, that little X is there. Because the way I normally do it, I push and hold the info button and it goes away. And then I push and hold it again, and then the normal screen comes back, and I can toggle to everything off, but I still got that square in the middle. And I think that's the problem I was having. With the EM10, and that's how I figured out it's press and hold on the whatchamacallit, info button. So yeah, when I get the camera in my hands and try it for myself, I will check, unless somebody already has one. Let's see. You might be wrong about cell phones. They are coming out with phones with 4 or 5 lenses that are combining them into a wide angle telephoto, 40 megapixel images at f2.8. Yeah, you know, you tack that on with some computational stuff, right, to calculate bokeh. It'll get there eventually, right? But it's still no substitute for having a camera, I think. Like a real camera where you can interchange lenses and hold something. I don't see a photographer enthusiast, somebody that's really into photography, ever using a phone, even if it's capable, right? Now, it may take sales away from cameras, just like they are now anyway. But I don't think I'd ever use a phone as a real camera, or the same way I would use a real camera. And Olympus are selling the M10 Mark III 14 to 42 kit lens for $495. Yeah, $499. Yeah, that's a great deal. John Leach. Oh, I'm glad I'm here too. Okay, sorry, I got a little behind trying to figure out this EM10. Yeah, it looks like they haven't upgraded the manual's pictures in years. That's true. Oh, the thumbs down person? Roman? Yeah, there's always somebody. But you know, those are fine. You know, if I went onto a stream for the first time and there's no sound, I'd give it a thumbs down. Well, I wouldn't. I never give a video a thumbs down, ever. I don't think I've ever given a thumbs down in my life. That's why I like Instagram. You only have thumbs up, right? And the camera burned because you tried to 5-minute. I'm not sure what you're referring to, Roman. Oh, you tracked him down and eliminate him. That's the cleanest desktop I've ever seen. Mine looks like a tornado. You guys ever watch the IT Crowd? It's on Netflix now, but there was an episode where I think it's Elaine, I forget her name. She had a crazy desktop, but that was back in the early 2000s, right? Where there was all this, that's back when there was all kinds of pop-ups and things, and people could install things on your computer. anytime, just by browsing their site, stuff gets installed. And she's like, don't touch anything. I got everything just the way I want it, you know? Come on, folks. Please show the stream some love. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Randy. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And Chris Hermon. Yeah, I think hopefully I'll figure it out. And then Nikon Mike says, lens advances surprised Ali doesn't explore Fresnel diffractive optics like others. Makes long lenses even smaller. Yes. There was a lens back in the 60s. I forget. I think it was a Fresnel lens. But they're weird looking. They're very thin, but they give you this impossible depth of field, like really long depth of field or wide. But you could zoom in like 200 times, right? And there would be no blurriness. So you could do these shots that look like the examples they gave were like an airplane flying over a person's head. I mean, the airplane was probably, you know, 500 or 600, you know, meters back, but it looked like it was flying right on top of their head because of this lens. And you can rent them. I forget what they're called, but they're really specialized lenses, and they look like long tubes. They're like really long and relatively small, but they gave this incredible wide depth of field for that effect, and they used it a lot in movies to so they didn't have to stop down to like f100 or whatever it took. You know, it would still be a very bright lens, but it had a huge depth of field. I don't know if anybody knows what they're called. I thought they were Fresnel lenses, but I could be off. I could be wrong on that. Has anyone had luck with the Olympus sensor cleaner if needed? No, I have not tried. What did you think about variable ND filters 2 to 32, for example? They're great. You just have to get the right one. I'll show you the one that I got and I'll explain why. Let me see. ND filter. Wait, that's not my orders. Dang, how many? I ordered a lot of ND filters apparently. These are my ND filter orders. I got 6 orders for ND filters, but KNF 10 stop, that's the 10 stop. This is another 10 stop. This one. So this one here, you know, you need to get the right ring size. But this is important, no X spot, right? This is a really good filter. You know, it costs a little more than the El Cheapos, because KNF makes El Cheapo filters too. But this is the one you want to get that has no X spot. And the clarity and the color and everything is excellent out of this filter. So I have no problem with this one. But that's the one you want to get. And I'll put a link in. And you want to buy the ring size that matches the lens you're going to use it on. I bought a 62 millimeter, which matches, I think, my 12 to 40 Pro. And then I use step rings to use it on other lenses, but this one is a really good one. I've been really happy with this one. I mean, you could spend a lot more and get even better quality, because there's a color shift sometimes when you go all the way to 32, for example. You know, you make it really dark. There is a slight color shift on this. But for $49, you know, you're fine, right? You can just do a little white balance adjustment, you're okay. The cheap filters, there's a huge color shift in them sometimes. You don't want that. And a lot of times you get this X pattern, like this weird shading you'll never get rid of in post. And this particular filter has hard stops on the twisting, so when you turn it, it stops, so you don't go past the point where it's actually going to start to cause that shading, irregular shading in the image. So this is a good one. And here is a link to that one. Video is off sync. Real cameras do not ring. Video is good. Okay, cell phones don't have an EVF. Have to have a finder. Yeah. Yeah, I don't like the handling of cell phones. And then Elaine says, when I sold my first EM5, I had to use a phone for my photo vlog for about a year, and it was a misery. I didn't even care about my photos. I need a camera. Yeah. And there was a message from Plato I missed. Roman says, if it was a Canon R5, it would be burned by now, overheating problems. But since it's MFT, it will survive much longer than the great 8K full-frame cameras. Yes. Yeah, I thought there was some 8K Micro Four Thirds camera from Sharp supposed to come out. Haven't heard anything about it lately. Hey, Nature, how are you? It's okay. You didn't miss anything but me talking, but no sound, even though you're late. So I think that's why the number of people here doubles like halfway through, because nobody bothers to come in when there's no sound. And then Roberto's asking, can I capture video with software only if plugged just HDMI cable? No, you have to have a capture card. If you're going to record it on your computer, which is implied because you said with software. Yeah, there's no other way. Unless you have a capture card in your computer. Some computers have them. Usually you buy it separately though. Either internally in like desktop computers, or you buy these little USB plugs like I do for my laptop. And Dave Nelson says, in searching for a 46mm UV filter for my 60mm macro on Amazon, I was amazed at the percentage of people who got fake filters from Amazon directly. Really? That's yeah, I'm very careful. Luckily, they have a good return policy, right? You can just send it back and say, this is a fake piece of crap. And then leave feedback to this on the seller that they're selling fake merchandise. That's why, like, batteries, I always buy it directly from my local camera store. I don't buy, even if they say they're genuine original batteries, I buy it directly from my camera store locally here. If you don't have a camera store locally, then from a camera store online, like B&H or something, you know. Anamorphic, no, John Follow says, you think they're called anamorphic. No, not anamorphic lenses. Anamorphic lenses are different than what I'm thinking of. And John McCormick says, don't retire to Florida. We have bad microburst, horizontal tornado, no spin storm that took down trees and a few roofs, including oak tree. Oh, sorry to hear that. But I'm going to go, I'm thinking Tennessee when I retire. And Eddie Cook says, I have dust inside my Olympus. Yeah, 75 to 300 is difficult to remove. I've never been able to remove dust from inside a lens. I wouldn't worry about it. It doesn't affect the image quality. I mean, unless there's a ton of dust. But if it's just a few specks, you'll be all right. And then Randy says, I never use a filter on my lenses, just another piece of glass for light to go through. Yeah, I mean, there's that theory, not theory, but there's that thought that putting another piece of glass in front of your already expensive glass is can degrade the image quality, right? And for my dying eyes, I can't tell the difference if you buy a quality filter, but there's some people where they're very sensitive to that. You know, when I pixel peep, because I bought a very cheap UV filter for one of my lenses, not my Olympus stuff, but when I had Nikon, and I could see a difference, right, between filter on and filter off. But it was a cheap filter, and I really had to pixel peep to see the difference when I was looking at detail. Detail is not the only thing that a cheap filter on your camera can cause problems with, right? I mean, anything to do with light, the color, the clarity, the contrast, everything can be affected by putting another piece of glass. You know, you might get more of a lens flare. But if you're gonna put a filter on, put a good one on. You know, you got to spend $30, $50, $100. You know, I spent $200 on a stupid polarizer once. I'll never do that again. But back when I thought it made a difference, I spent some bucks on some filters. Ooh, you had a Western bacon cheeseburger from Carl's Jr. We don't have any Carl's Jr. where I live. And Randy says, my 60 macro has a lens hood. Yes. I need to get that macro lens one day. I hope somebody got something from the refurb sale, the Olympus website sale. They had some deals. I wish I had time to print out the deals. I printed them out one time, you know, just so I would always have it to see what the deals were. I think they had the same deals, though. It was like the EM5 Mark III. $8.99, yeah. EM5 Mark III with the 14-150 kit lens. $8.99. It's a refurb, meaning it's, you know, some open box or something. But like new, right? $8.99. They had the same deal again. So I do have a record of the previous deals, but they were the same again this time. Just can't believe it. And oops. Trueprint says, last time I was asking about 7 Artisan 7.5 lens. I'm thinking of either that or the Laowa. I think they're the same thing. But no, I don't have a suggestion one over the other. I know that most people have bought the 7 Artisans and really liked it. The Laowa is probably the same lens, just branded differently, but as far as what people have told me is they always buy this. They've been buying the 7 Artisans and been very happy with it. And Roman's asking, is the dynamic range of film always better than digital? No. I mean, the thing with film is, I'm not a film expert. I'm sure others can answer this better than I can. But the thing with film is, it's very, very difficult to blow highlights on film. Whereas on digital, it's very easy to blow the highlights. However, digital is much better at recovering shadows, whereas film gets very, very grainy when you start to pull shadows. That's all I know. Now, as far as ultimately the dynamic range between the two, I guess it depends which direction you go. If you expose to the right heavily, you're not going to clip any highlights on film where you will on digital. And then film has all kinds of processing techniques, right? Where if you do the standard C41 processing, you know, the computer does, or you know, it has a fixed amount of chemicals and timing and everything. But there are people that mess with the timing of the chemicals, because there's several steps, right? Where they can push and pull film through the chemical process, but they can also push and pull by how long they leave the light on in the enlarger for the prints. And then they do the dodging and burning. Not much different than using Lightroom or something, right? But that's what I understand about film. I don't know technically the actual dynamic range of film, though. If there's a number for it, I just know that it's very, very difficult to blow highlights on film. And Van Schwarzschild is asking, is it really possible to increase the image quality with polarizing filter? I've read that they improve contrast and colors, but they also absorb 2 f-stops of light. Yeah, the idea is, I think for things like atmospheric distortion, glare, humidity, polarizers tend to cut through that a little better, because, you know, when you have humidity in the air, the tiny water drop, microscopic, right? It's not visible to the human eye, but those things diffract light, and that's why things get hazy as things get further away. And a polarizing filter cuts the direction of light so that you're only seeing one angle, right, of the light coming at you. So the idea being that it's going to cut reflections and glare and all of that. So in terms of contrast, you'll definitely get some improvement using a polarizing filter for things that are very far away, meaning there's a lot of air between you and the subject. It's also good for, you know, a friend of mine uses it for portraits, right? He likes to cut glare from shines on people's faces. So anywhere where you have a reflection problem or glare, polarizers can help with the contrast on that. And yeah, there are some polarizers that only lose 1 stop of light. You know, the cheaper ones lose 2 stops. But you know, you pay a lot more for the 1-stop polarizers. But they're supposed to help, and you can see the difference, right? Like and the way most people adjust their polarizers is they point it at the sky, and then they make sure the sky is as dark blue as possible. And then anytime you change positions, you have to readjust the polarizer so that you maximize that angle into the camera. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt to get one and use it for landscapes and shots where you have some distance, I think. But people like to use it for reflections off the water, like if you're taking seascapes and things, it can help with that. So there's definitely a lot of uses for it. I mean, but you have to know how to use one, right? Being able to adjust it and have a good eye for that, because sometimes I'm spinning that polarizer around, I can't see any difference, you know. Then other times when I'm adjusting it, I can clearly see a difference. So that's telling me that the amount of humidity in the air might be the factor there in those certain situations. But anyhow, that's all I know about that. But I don't personally, I don't use one very often. Extremely rare. Although I should use it more. Yeah, like I said, I don't like the idea of it cutting a stop of light, and I'm usually shooting at night. I'm sort of a nighttime photographer, so that's why I don't use it much. And Eddie says, I have a 10-stop green L, costs 15 pounds. Great. Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, if you find a cheap filter that works well, that's awesome. But I bought a few cheap ones and I had some problems. One of them really degraded the image quality. I thought I missed focus on all the images, and then when I looked at them, it wasn't because I missed focus. It's because the frickin' polarizing filter, or ND filter, such poor quality, it made the images look like they were out of focus. That's how bad it was. So I just spent the bucks and bought a $50 one and rolled the dice on 50 bucks, and it turned out to be awesome. So that's why I recommend it. I don't know about other brands. Maybe you can get a good one for less, but that's the one that I have. And Nature says, I use the Gobi UV filters. I do not see any problems with the shot unless maybe with sunburst. Yes. Yeah, Gobi is got a lot of recognition. I know David Popsis likes them. I think they sent him a set for free, but he liked them. Otherwise, he wouldn't say he did. You know, he's not one to just get a product free and lie about it. At least I hope not, but I'm sure he wouldn't. Elaine's asking, cheap filters. This might be a stupid question, but could it interfere with AF speed? If it cuts light, yes. Definitely, because AF is very sensitive to contrast, right? So if it reduces contrast in any way, either making the image a little bit blurry, which is reducing contrast, definitely. I mean, again, I don't know if it'd have to be a really bad filter for it to mess with autofocus in a way that you would notice, right? But definitely would. And then Dave says, I went cheap with polarizing filter and actually caused waves in the image. Wow. Yes, everybody has different experience. That's just been my experience. Cheap filters have not been good to me. And I always try cheap first, right? I mean, why not? Just try it. At least here, I have the luxury of being able to buy from Amazon and return it if it doesn't work. Or work to my satisfaction, because I can buy cheap stuff and it sucks, but I only paid $1, so it's fine, right? But let's see. Tirapan, uses Gobe too. Gobe or Gobi, however they're pronounced. And Arthur says, if you overexpose film, it's basically ruined. Underexposing will only give you around a stop or two. If it's slide film, you have no dynamic range. Oh, yeah, that's true. Slide film has virtually no dynamic range. You have to get the exposure spot on. But when I was looking into film or reading about film, particularly black and white film, you'd have to. They said it's very hard to blow highlights. And Nature says, use the 60 macro today. Yes, this lens is absolute must buy. Yeah, I know. Ugh. That's what I looked for actually on the outlet sale. I was looking for a 60mm macro to be on sale. And they didn't even have it available. I was really disappointed. They did have, this was the sale they had yesterday. They had the 40-150 Pro for $8.99. I was this close to pushing the buy button on that because I don't have a 40-150 Pro. I was so close. And it was just too much though. I just can't, because I just bought this laptop. I can't be spending. Anyhow. Bob Tishmarsh, how are you? We never seem to get open box stuff to buy in the UK. Oh, sorry. And Dave Nelson says, knowing how you like to experiment, play with equipment, I can almost guarantee you will love the 60. The 60 is my first macro. And I kick myself for not getting it in a long time. I know I have a 60mm macro for my Nikon, which I love to death. And every time I look at the 60 macro for Olympus, I think to myself, I can just adapt the one I got. I still have my 60 macro from Nikon. But I never do because you have to manually focus, right? Which you do a lot in macro anyway, but that's what's keeping me from buying it partially, is that I already have a 60 macro from Nikon and I can adapt easily. So I'm just a little bit. Maybe I should sell my Nikon 60 macro. I hate to sell any of my Nikon stuff because the stuff I got from my Nikon was all, the best, or not the best, but really good stuff, right? The 60 macro, my 35mm Zeiss. Wow, I love that lens. And I don't adapt it to my Micro Four Thirds much because it's so freaking heavy. Kodak Ektar 25 was wonderful. A little slow but wonderful detail. Super sharp, no grain. Yes. Don't they make the Ektar now? Or start making it again? Colorado photography paper is about 8 f-stops maximum. Oh, color photography paper. Okay, sorry, not Colorado. Color. That sounds about right, like JPEG, right? And Dave is asking, have you ever used medium format film cameras? And if so, would you recommend them to anybody to play with? Yes, I have a Fujifilm 6x9 The 690, it's a 6x9 medium format, uses 120 film. But there's no meter in it. Generally, it doesn't matter the format of the film. I always recommend people shoot with film. Just buy a cheap, if you may not even, someone will probably give you one, a cheap 35mm film camera, and shoot film for a little while for the experience of shooting film. Shooting medium format film, you can go up to the 4x5s, which are like this big, right? Why didn't anybody tell me I had lunch on my mouth? Anyway, I've been talking with this thing in my mouth this whole time. But that's not lunch, actually. You know what that is? That's the powdered milk from on my glass. What was I talking about? Oh, 4x5. Really, the images you get out of 4x5, even 120 film is really magical in the sense, and but you have to get good at it, right? So I would practice on a 35mm with film, and then move up to say 120 film or 4x5 film, and work with somebody that knows what they're doing. It's really hard, I think, even if you're a competent digital photographer, you might struggle with a film camera and getting it right. So watch lots of YouTube videos on film, or get to know somebody that knows something about film. There's a guy in our photography group that is really good. So that's what I would say. So I would recommend shooting film in general. It doesn't have to be medium format. Oh, hey, Jeff Painter, how are you? And Dave is going to go do laundry. Okay, good idea. And Roberto says, you read my mind. I tested polarizer on my recent photo walk and needed a viewfinder to see what's going on when turning it. Yes. And Lauren says, a circular polarizer works on digital, but not as good or necessary with digital cameras. When using, be sure one side of the sky is not way too blue. Yeah, you gotta, it's gonna depend on the focal length. That's the other thing, is really wide angle lenses. You don't want to use a polarizer generally. Try to use it with a standard lens, like, maybe an Olympus 25mm type lens. You could go 14, but that's a little bit wide. I'd stay in the 20-25mm range or longer if you're going to use a polarizer. Because when you get really wide, the problem is the light needs to come in from different directions, right? Like if this is so the polarizer is not going to be able to adjust for that, because the polarizer is designed to just let light come in one direction. So that's a good point, though. Thank you, Lauren. And let's see. You saw a 60 macro for $249. Yeah, that's awesome. And Stanislav says 60 is a cool lens, but not something. Looks like he didn't finish that thought there. And Eddie says, my 12-40 is fantastic lens, but now and then need something to go to wider without spending loads. Any good options? Yeah, you have two options, really. I think is like people have been talking is, well, it depends what loads of money is, right? But the 9mm fisheye body cap lens is an f8, but it's $99. That's a cool lens and it's very sharp. If you want to get more of a normal lens, the 9-18 from Olympus is really good, but that starts at f4 also. And then the oh gosh, let me just look real quick. M4 thread. So this will jog my memory a little bit. Wide angle. Then dash fisheye. I mean, without going fisheye, let me see. Yeah, I think it's this one. This one doesn't say it's a fisheye. But it's only 139 bucks, right? And then what are some options down here? Anything? That's a fisheye. Fisheye, fisheye, regular. I think this is it. This lens right here. So here's a link to that one. These are US links. I don't know if it really applies to most of you, but yeah, Soft Sun says the Laowa 7.5 is a great lens. Is that the one we were just... Oh, I was looking at the 7 Artisans. I thought the Laowa was a... Let me look at that. Laow Laowa 7.5. Here it is. Wow, that's not really a budget option, is it? Man, okay. I'm sure it's very good though at that price. If they're asking that kind of money, it better be good. This is the lightweight version. They haven't... So this is like the one made for drones, because it says lightweight here. But they have another one that's like 50 bucks less. That's not for drones, that you can use on your camera. It's more of a metal build, I guess, or heavy. You know, it's like 50 grams lighter or heavier. That's an option there. And what about the 56 Sigma lens made in Japan? The question I have is if there's settings in Olympus cameras that change when you're using Sigma lenses for correction, as it has some barrel distortion. I have no idea. I don't have that lens. But I can't imagine there's anything in the Olympus camera to correct for that. You'd have to rely on Lightroom or whatever software to have that. Or just do it yourself manually in software, you know, in post-processing. And Randy says, I'm bidding on a Minolta Autocore TLR. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, TLRs would be fun to have. I'll get one when I'm done with my Fujifilm 6x9. I was looking at like a Mamiya 330, like a C330. I mean, I'm just, you know, either that or there's the other brand. I forget the name of it. It's a lot smaller and lighter, but that kind of vintage. And Elaine says, it's depressing me, frankly, and I don't take near as many pics as I'm thinking I'm going to have to buy a new camera simply for great AF speed. What are you talking about, Elaine? You don't have a camera right now? Way back when I was listening to reviews on the original EM5, they said super fast AF. I bought it and it was true, but this second used one I can't... Oh yeah, that's right. You did buy another EM5 and that one kind of sucked. I guess I had some problem with it. Yeah, Roman, I know Matt Granger sold all his Nikons. I can't bring myself to sell it. I just can't, because it really takes wonderful pictures, you know? So, you know, if I go out, I don't know, I'll have to take it out with me one day and just shoot with it. I don't miss it though. That's the thing, because my Micro Four Thirds is so good. I never grab it. I should just grab it and take it out and go, just for the heck of it. And then Jeff Painter says he uses a Raynox 250 on his Ollie lenses and it works well. Yeah, and I think Robin Wong uses Raynox too. Gosh, hopefully I didn't miss... I missed a lot of comments here. Arthur says, that's correct about black and white film, but it's a different science from color. Different makes and stock of black and white film are also different. Yes. And good evening, Barry. How are you? All right, now I'm caught up. And then John says, just buy both. Seriously, the Macro 60 can be used for all sorts of general photography. It's tack sharp. Oh, I know. I don't have a need for a 60 though. Other than to do macro, and then I'm content with the extension tubes. That's the other thing. I have a Nikon 60 macro, and I have my extension tubes. And I don't do a lot of macro. I'm not a big fan of bugs, actually. And Nature says the Nikon is a great macro lens, but does not focus stacking, which is so useful. Yeah, that's true. And Randy says, I shot gazillions of film in the 70s. And Palumbo says, Canada finally got a deal. Get the EM1 Mark II for $13.99 Canadian. Add a coupon, get OMD at checkout. Okay, so if you live in Canada, check that out. He's got the coupon code is GETOMD, GETOMD. Using film to learn photography is an expensive way. Yeah, like I was saying on my last stream, I don't recommend people start with film. But I think if you get pretty competent with your digital camera, you should think about trying film just for a different experience and a different perspective on photography. You might really enjoy it, and time to time, you know, it's worth that little bit of expense, right? Because it's, you know, you're just having fun, right? What's $20-$30 in film and developing and all of that. But yeah, don't learn with film. Oh my God, yeah, that's crazy. There's people that say I think in photography school, if they still exist, they start you with a film camera, which makes no sense to me if they do that. That's what I hear, but I don't know. I never went to film school. But yeah, don't start with film ever. Elaine says, I struggled with film way back when. Things are different with digital. Way easier to be considered a photographer in this day and age. Yes. And everybody should have, and Matt Hell says, everybody should have a go with old Ollie film OM camera, or even just one of the great rangefinders. Yes, I got to get an R35 rangefinder. I really want one. Or the original film Pen F, you know? Those things are so mechanical. I mean, the Pen F is, it's hard to find a working one and not pay a premium. It just worries me a little bit because it's so sophisticated. And Nature says, bring your Nikon lenses if you come over to London and stay with me. I have a Metabone speed booster for use on. Okay. I don't like to travel. I'd love to go to London. Like if I could just get in my car and drive there, I would be there in a minute. But since I have to fly, I'm not a big fan of flying. And Peter tested the Pen F a few. Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that I saw that video. He has the best film cameras. Or he has a lot of cool cameras actually. And Arthur says, you don't process and print yourself. You'll only learn half the story. That's true. I mean, you can process film yourself, but it's just another level of investment, right? With chemicals, and then you need working space with a sink, and guess you could do it in your bathtub. I mean, if you're single, no kids, go for it. Like me, I could do it. I don't want to do it. That's the thing. I'd rather, because back in the 80s. In the 80s, I used to develop my own film, both color and black and white, and I had my own enlarger. And that was fun. I mean, you definitely learn a little bit that way too. Roman, get another lens. Oh, that's not for me. This Roberto said he heard the 7 Artisans doesn't fit the EM10 II. It hits the top front bump of the camera. I never heard that. I don't see anything. Perfectly round lens. What's it gonna hit? Right? I mean, so many people have told me they've used that lens. They've never mentioned that to me in the streams, that they have a problem with it. That Mamiya C330 is a beautiful camera. Yeah, it is beautiful, right? Big old accordion lens coming out so you can do macro and stuff. You have to deal with the parallax error. You know, because I can get one of those for, you know, $300, the one that's working anyway. I'm also thinking about, like, I think it's a Nikon S2, or there's a, then the Hasselblads. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe in another year or so, if I'm still doing photography. I think Sigma autocorrect. I saw something in a video which looked like the guy was looking at settings in his Olympus. Okay. Yeah, this is in reference to correcting the lens distortion, but primes usually don't have any distortion. Maybe, yeah, that's a little odd. Speaking of the Lao, what do you think about the 17 f1.8 Lao? I believe is the cheapest 35mm equivalent. Oh, Hasman, sorry, I haven't, or Hassan, I have not tried that lens for myself. But I think, how much is it? Lao is 17mm. $499. Wait, $149. This one here. So it's got 4.5 stars. Doesn't look like it's autofocus though, is it? It's got to be manual focus. I mean, the price tells me it's manual focus. I don't see anything that says autofocus. I'm sure it's fine, you know, just for, you know, casual enthusiast type work. May even be good for pro work if you don't mind the autofocus, lack thereof, I mean. But I haven't used it myself, so I can't say. And Satu's son says, have you done any 360 lately? I've been out today practicing with the Theta. I'm so jealous. No, I got this piece of crap Insta360 1R, which takes terrible 360 pictures. It's fine for video. It's fine. Which if I ever get back to vlogging, I'm gonna try and use that for my vlogging. But for photos, no, it just sucks to no end. I can't get a decent image out of it. The Z1 looks really good, but I'm scared now to buy a Z1 because that's like $1,000 camera. And I'm scared to buy it, and then it has the same not sucky, but the image quality is not up to par so that I could deliver that to a client. So I'm thinking I might just buy one of those arms, articulating arms, I forget what they call them, and just use my Olympus camera for 360 photos. And do it that way. It's a lot more work than just tapping, you know, because they all use apps, right? The 360 cameras. Yeah, it's going to be a lot harder than doing 360 photos with an actual 360 camera, but the difference in quality is huge. Don't sell it, Rob. Okay, I won't sell my Nikon. And it was the 70s. I had no choice but to start with film. 3-year full-time photography course. It was hell compared to digital. Oh, okay. Yeah, I bet. Out of curiosity, Nature's asking, out of curiosity, I have a 100mm Samyang macro lens. Very much do-it-yourself manual lens, but super shots. Yeah, I have a Nikon 105mm. I think it's an f2.8 macro lens. I tried it on my Micro Four Thirds once. It was pretty cool. But it's manual focus, right? So it's a pain. Well, the manual focus part I can get around. But the freaking size and weight of that thing is a pain. I almost need a lens collar for it. The Kodak Brownie Flash. My goodness, Lauren. I don't think I ever used a Brownie. I've never used a Brownie. Instamatics were my first film cameras. I used to have this film camera. It was a Minolta that had the voice in it. It was back in the early 80s. It would tell you, you know, load film or whatever. You know, it just had a few voice announcements in it, and I lost it. Plato's asked, do I have prints made of my best shots often? No, I just print them myself. You know, 4x6s. I'm fine with that. Like, no, I buy tons of 4x6 paper, and I just print it myself. This is really good 4x6 paper for black and white. I mean, it'll do color too, but I like printing my black and whites on matte paper. This is really good, and it's not expensive. Really good film. Or paper, I should. All my photo albums are. Ooh. Dropped everything. Give me a second, I gotta pick this up. Oh. I'm a little behind in putting my prints away. Or putting my prints in the. But yeah, I print. I like this one. I did have some scissors. That one came out pretty good. This was from a sewing machine shop that I did. Like this. Let's see, anything else good? Yeah, those were the good ones. I tried to do the sewing machine. I didn't do a good job on this. But I thought it was kind of neat how one machine was right behind the other. And then I have a little zinc printer. You know, those instant printers that I print to. Those are kind of cool too. But I'd like to get a little Fujifilm Instamatic film. What do they call those things? Instax? Fuji Instax or something? I was thinking about getting one of those too. I have a beautiful Polaroid. Oh my god, my SX70 is awesome. It's like $2 a print though. To print, not for good photos, for prints. They could suck. Like this one here, the Polaroids. I'm all washed out over here. This is my nephew. I took this with my SX70. I do have one that I want to print out large. I've been meaning to go down, but then this, you know, this pandemic thing started, so I haven't been able to go down and get a big print of one of my shots. And David says, I'm going to do a black and white field trip at the end of September. Okay, I'll go on that. This is T, Roman. Arthur says, processing and printing film makes you understand the chemical side of film and gives you better understanding of the film types you choose. No? I never got that complicated. I bought the standard Kodak chemicals and Kodak film that, you know, they said this works with, and then I followed the instructions to the letter. I think what you're talking about is more of the Ansel Adams stuff where you're pushing and pulling film with chemicals by changing the amount of time you leave it in there or not. Yeah, that's a whole different hobby, you know, altogether. I wouldn't even call that, well, it's photography, right? But it's a whole different area of photography that I will probably never get into that much. I like taking pictures with film, but you know, the overhead of doing it that next level where you're developing it yourself, both the negatives and printing them on paper, that is a whole level of hobby. Like, you have to, I don't think I could do that much. That's a lot of overhead for one picture. The only thing I can tell you is that you will definitely only take pictures of keepers. Like, it would have to be extraordinary for me to take a picture with film if I had to go through all that work. You know what I mean? Because you're so invested in that one image. You're not going to waste any film if you have to do all of that. And we're coming up on 4:30 when I'm going to start my next stream, but let me see if I can get through. If I want to have pictures developed, Van Schwarzschild is asking, if I want to have pictures developed as regular photos, what resolution should I use? Does it make sense to reduce or adjust the resolution? No. Just always send the full resolution image if you're sending them digital, like the JPEGs. Most places take JPEGs. If you want to get into high-end printing, then they'll tell you what you need to send them. But for most places that you just upload a photo to, they'll take a JPEG. And they usually have online tools for you to size and do everything. Just try out a few, you know. I'm very lucky that I have a local camera store that I can walk in there with my memory card and they can work through the printing process with me. So I've never had to deal with the online side of it, though I've tried to do some online prints, and the process was, you know, you pick the paper size or the poster size, whatever it was, and then you upload your image, and then they give you a preview of what it'll look like. So it should be pretty straightforward, but yeah, just send the highest resolution you can give them. And Cheerpan's asking, what printer do I use? I use an Epson XP800. It's an old one, but their XP series, very compact, and it works great. I mean, it's fine for just printing, you know, personal photos. I wouldn't do anything professional with it, but nobody asked for anything professionally from me in that sense. My stuff all goes online. The clipboard on the ground. Is there a clip? Oh, this clipboard. Does anybody know what this background is from? I'll be impressed if you know what this background is from, if anybody knows. I'm sure someone knows. And the more precision you have, the better. The more impressed I'll be. I like canvas and metal, so I don't have to buy a frame. Oh, okay. Yes, metal prints. So you have an Instax and never used them, huh, Elaine? Huh. Yeah, I don't use mine too much, but you know, just for fun. Once in a while. And Cheerpan says he prints at Walgreens. And CVS and Walgreens was #1. Yeah, I can't find a CVS that does 1 hour photo anymore. There used to be one in Burke, David, that I don't know if they still do or not. Now you have to send. They used to do 1 hour not 1 hour, but yeah, they used to do same day developing at the one in Burke, the CVS in Burke. But that was about 5 years ago. I don't know if they still do. And Nature says, never print any of my photos. Sounds like a lot of work. Yes, it is. Okay, I have to go to my next stream. I'm so sorry. I didn't catch up to all of the things. No, it's not Outer Limits. It's not the Missile Launch Control Room. Annandale has a 24-hour CVS. Oh, okay. That's good to know. I have to check that out. This is from an episode of Doctor Who. This thank you, David. He knows. He said it. Just as soon as I said it, he said it. I think this is the nuclear station episode. The the Hand of Fear. The nuclear station where it was Eldrad or Eldrad. Yeah, I think it was Eldrad. Came to life from a statue of his hand or something, a piece of his hand, the Hand of Fear episode. I'm pretty sure that's what this was from. So, oh, Elaine, you said Doctor. I missed it. I'm sorry, because so many texts came up because I've been talking more than I've been reading this time. But okay, so yeah, it was Doctor Who, and I think it was the Hand of Fear episode, which is like I'd say one of my favorite episodes ever. Does Doctor Who have his face mask on? No. But all right, everyone, thanks for joining me today. I'm gonna start my my photo editing live stream in a couple minutes. I'm gonna head over there, so you can join us there, or we'll see you again on Sunday. Thanks for coming in today. No, I think the Hand of Fear was Tom Baker episode. I'll be back on Sunday, Elaine. Okay, I have to go.